Good everyone, my name is Graphics. If you look at the front of the screen, you see a question on matrix and we're told to find the determinant of this matrix. Now this matrix has 4 rows and 4 columns. This is row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. This is column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. Now you've seen that the number of rows is equal to what? The number of column. That is why it is a 4 by 4 matrix, which is also called a square matrix. Whenever the number of rows is equal to the number of column, you call it a square matrix. Now we are told to look for the determinant. What you do is you can consider any of the rows. I can consider row 1, I can consider row 2, I can consider row 3, and I consider row 4. So all the elements in each of these rows, you consider them. You can choose any of the row. So now I'll be choosing the first row, which is row 1, and that consists of elements 3, 2, 5, and 7 all together. And these 3, 2, 5, and 7 can be given as the first one is A11. You can use any alphabet. So I'm choosing to use A. A11, right? A sub 11 means element in the row 1, in the first row, first column. And that is what? 3. Now if I use the formula of -1 raised to power what? The row plus column. So it will now give me -1 raised to power, since I'm considering A11 element in the first row, first column, to be 1 plus 1. And 1 plus 1 is 2. So -1 raised to power 2 give you what? Plus 1. And plus 1 is like saying plus. So I'll put plus in the first element, on the first element here. Then I'll go to the second element in row 1, which is, I'll call it A12. That is element in the first row, second column. Right? And using the same formula, I'll be having -1 raised to power what? 1 plus 2. And that will give me -1 raised to power what? 3. And it is odd, meaning 1 minus 1 times -1 times -1, that will also give you -1. Altogether, and -1 is like still having minus. So I'll place minus on the 2. If I come to the third element in row 1, which is A13, so element in the first row, third column, using the same formula, -1 raised to power what? 1 plus 3. And that is -1 raised to power what? 4. Right? So, and since the power is even, so you are having -1 times -1 times -1 times -1, and that will give you what? Plus 1. So I'm putting plus on the 5. The same thing, you can try the fourth element in the first row, which is A14. You will discover that you're having -1 raised to power what? 1 plus 5. And that will give you -1 plus 4. And that will give you -1 raised to power what? 5. And that is odd. So the answer will always remain in what? Negative. So we're left with -1. So I'll put the minus here. So that's how we'll come about plus, minus, plus, minus. That is from considering the first row. So just like that, to get the fifth element, sixth element, seventh element, that means if you are to choose row 2, you do the same thing. Now if let's just give for instance, now if I'm to take row 2 here, right, I'll be having A21, A22, A23, and A24. That means A21 means element in the second row, first column. Element A21, A22 means element in the second row, second column. A23 means element in the second row, third column. And A24 means element in the second row, fourth column, which is 0 there. So if you are considering row 3 to be A31, A32, 8, and so on and so forth. So let's just leave that for another day, right? You can just click on this link here to tell you on how you can actually do that. So we'll proceed. Now, since I'm considering the first row, right, I will take 3. I will make use of each of the elements in those rows. So let's start with 3. So if I consider 3, along the column, down the column, and along the what? The row, right? I'll be left with what? Minus 4, minus 3, 0, 4, 2, minus 1, minus 1, 0, 3. That is, if I consider 3. So the next one, minus 2. If I'm considering 2, I must put the minus on it in front of the 2. So considering minus 2, right? Down the column, along the row, I'll be left with minus 1, minus 3, 0, 6, 2, minus 1, 2, 0, 3. That's what we have when you consider 2. If I consider 5, I'll put what the sign I have on the 5 first, plus 5. And when you consider 5 down the column, across the row, you'll be left with minus 1, minus 4, 0, 6, 4, minus 1, 2, minus 1, 3. This is what we have when you consider 5. Now, if I consider 7, remember the sign on 7 is minus, so I'll be having minus 7, right? So if I consider it, I'll be having minus 1, minus 4, minus 3, 6, 4, 2, 2, minus 1, 0. So this is all we are going to what we are considering. Is that okay now? Now what does it remind you? It has taken you to your 3 by 3 matrix. Are we good? We have 3 rows and 3 columns. So now because of avoiding mistakes, are we good? I'll be considering each of the matrices one after the other. So let's consider the first one, which is 3 minus 4 minus 3, 0, 4, 2, minus 1, minus 1, 0, 3. I'm considering this, right? So if you look at what we've done in our previous video, we do the same thing. You are considering the first 3 elements on the row, all right? So remember we have 3 here. You open a bigger bracket this way. All together. So I will consider minus 4. So what is on top of the 4? Plus. Plus times minus will also give you minus, so I have minus 4. So if I take 4, minus 4 down the column, across the row, I'll be left with what? 2 minus 1, 0, 3, right? I'll go to the next element, which is minus 3. But on top of minus 3, I have minus. So minus times minus is what? Plus. So I'll be having plus 3 there. So if I consider minus 3 down the column, across the row, I'll be left with what? 4 minus 1 minus 1, 3. Right? This is what we have here. Now I'm going to consider 0. So if I consider the 0 here, what's on top of 0 is plus. So plus 0. So if I consider it down the column, across the row, I'll be having 4, 2, minus 1, 0. This is what we have. So if I break it down further, I'll be having 3, open bracket. So we have minus 4, open bracket, right? In middle of the bracket, you put your minus. So 3 will go and multiply 2. We'll be having 6. I'll put 6 here. Since it's at the left hand side, since the 2 is at the left hand side, I'll put 6 here. Then 0 will go to the right hand side to multiply minus 1. I'll be having 0. So I'll be putting 0 here. Plus 3, I'll open bracket, put negative middle of the bracket. So I'm going to take 3 will go to the left hand side to multiply 4. I'll be having 12. I'll place the 12 in the left hand side of the negative sign. And minus 1 will go to the right hand side to multiply minus 1. I'll be having plus 1, and plus 1 will be at the right hand side of negative sign. So we have, so plus 0, open bracket, 0 will go to multiply 4 at the left hand side here. I'll give you back 0, right? Place it here. Then minus 1 will go and multiply 2 here, and we're having minus 2. So minus 2, I'll place it here. All together now, close the bracket. This is what we have. So we proceed. In proceeding, I have 3, open bracket. 6 minus 0 is 6. 6 times minus 4 will give you minus 24. All together. Then 12 minus 1 is 11. 3 times 11 is 33. I'll write it down here. 0 minus 2, that is 0 plus 2 will give you 2. 2 times 0 is 0. I'll put it 0 here. All together. So if I break it down, minus 24 plus 33 plus 0 will give you 9. Then 9 times 3 will give you 27. So the determinant of all this you have here is what? Is 27. So I'll write it down there. That again, just because of space, I'll write it down there. Now, I'll go to the second one and I'll do the same thing. So let's consider the second matrix. I have minus 2, open brackets, right? Minus 2 is scalar multiplying the minus 1, minus 3, 0, 6, 2, minus 1, 2, 0, 3 altogether. So if I should start with that, I will now have minus 2 is outside already, scalar multiplying, you open the bracket, and you look for the determinant of this matrix. So if I consider minus 1, remember there's a plus in front of it, plus minus plus, so plus times minus is what? Is minus, so I'll put the minus 1 here. So if I consider that minus 1 down the column across the row, right, I'll be left with 2, 0, minus, I'll be left with 2, minus 1, 0, and 3, right? Then if I consider minus 3, remember there's a minus on the 3, so minus and minus is plus, so I'll be having plus 3 here. So if I consider it down the column across the group, I'll be left with what? 6 minus 1, 2, 3. So I'll put it here. Now, if I consider 0, right, remember there's a plus on top of 0, so if I consider that plus 0 there, down the column across the row, I'll be left with 6, 2, 2, 0, right? So if I come down further, I'll be having, bring out the minus 2 out, right? If I bring out the minus 2 out, and I will now multiply, I will now have minus 1, open bracket, put negative in between. 3 will multiply 2, we're having 6. 0 multiply minus 1 will be what? 0. Plus 3, open bracket, put minus in between. 3 times 6 is 18. 2 times minus 1 is what? Minus 2, right? Plus 0, open bracket, put negative in between. 0 times 6 is 0, and 2 times 2 is what? Is 4. This is what we have. So if I come down again, right? So I will now be having minus 2, open bracket, 6 minus 0 is 6. 6 times minus 1 will give you minus 6. Then we'll go to the next one. 18 minus 2 is meaning 18 plus 2, that is 20. 20 times 3 is what? 60. Then 0 minus 4 is what? Minus 4. Minus 4 times 0 is 0. All together. So we'll go down again. We'll now have minus 6 plus 60 plus 0 will give us 54. 54 times minus 2, right, is going to give us what? 108. So the matrix of this here will be what? 108. All together now. So I'll consider the third one also. Is that again? So the third matrix is having a scalar multiplication of 5 with it. And I will write it out here. So the same thing, plus minus plus, right? So I have my plus 5 outside. So if I open the bracket, so if I should consider 1, if I should consider minus 1, remember the plus on top, minus times plus will give you minus. So I consider minus 1. Down the column, across the row, I'll be left with what? I'll be left with 4 minus 1 minus 1, 3, right? Then if I should consider, remember, if I consider minus 4, there's a minus on it, so minus and minus is what? Is plus 4. So consider it down the column across the row. I'll be having 6 minus 1, 2, 3, right? Now the next one is plus 0 because there's plus on top. So I consider it down the column across the row. I'll be having what? 6, 4, 2, minus 1. So this is what we have here. Now I'll move further and I'll bring my 5 outside with a bigger bracket. So I'll be having minus 1, right? Open bracket, put negative in between. We'll be left with 3 times 4 is 12. Then we have minus 1 times minus 1 is what? Is 1. So we have here plus 4, open bracket, put minus in between. 3 times 6 is what? 18. 2 times minus 1 is what? Minus 2, right? So we have plus 0, open bracket, put minus in between. So I'll be having minus 1 times 6 give minus 6, and 2 times 4 we have what? 8 here. So if I move further, I'm having 5 plus 5, open bracket. I have, if you do it this way, 12 minus 1 is 11. 11 times minus 1 is minus 11. 18 minus 2, meaning 18 plus 2, that is 20. 20 times 4 is 80. Then minus 6 minus 8 is minus 14. Minus 14 times 0 is what? Is 0 altogether. So if I go further, minus 11 plus 80 plus 0 will give us 69, right? And 69 times 5 will now be 345. That's for the third one. Now the fourth one, last but not the least, is minus 7 scalar multiplying the matrix in front of it, which is minus 1, minus 4, minus 3, 6, 4, 2, 2, minus 1, 0. So I'm considering that, right? So if I do the needful here, I'll be having, see what's happening here. I'm going to be having, I'll write my plus, minus, plus. Is that okay? So if I write my minus 7, open a bigger bracket. So if I consider minus 1, right? Remember there's a plus on it, so plus times minus will always give you minus. So if I consider it down the column across the row, I'll be left with what? 4, 2, minus 1, 0, right? That's what we have. If I should consider minus 4, remember there's a minus on top of the 4, so I'll be having plus 4, because minus times minus is plus. So consider it down the column across the row, I'll be having what? 6, 2, 2, 0. I would. So the next one is the last one here, which is minus 3. What's on top of it is plus. Plus and minus will give you what? Minus. So if you consider it down the column across the row, you'll be having 6, 4, 2, minus 1. Right? Now when you do the needful here, you write your 7 outside. Let's say minus 7 outside here. And you'll be having, you take minus 1, open bracket, put minus in between. So we have 0 times 4 is 0, minus 1 times 2 is minus 2. All together, then plus 4, open bracket, put minus in between. So we're having 0 times 6, 0 multiply 6 to give you 0. Then 2 times 2 will give you what? 4, right? Then we have minus 3, open bracket, put minus in between. Minus 1 times 6 will give you minus 6. 2 times 4 will give you what? 8. And when you do that, you will be left with minus 7, open bracket, 0 minus minus 2 is 0 plus 2, which is 2. 2 times minus 1 will give you minus 2. Then the next one is 0 minus 4 is minus 4. Minus 4 times plus 4 will give you what? Minus 16. Now the next one here is minus 6 minus 8 will give you minus 6 minus will give you minus 14. Minus 14 times 3 is going to give you what? 42, right? Now when you now do the sum of this, the calculation of this, minus 2 minus 16 plus 42 will give you what? 24. And 24 times minus 7 is going to give you 168, minus 168, right? So I'll place it here. So if we move further here, we will now have 27 minus 108 plus that 345 minus 168 will give you what? 96. So the determinant of this 4 by 4 matrix is given to be what? 96. Is that okay now? So you don't forget to, if you know you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and also share the video. Thanks for watching.